manifestation is one of my favorite things to teach. I absolutely adore teaching out-of-body exploration, but manifestation is that thing that applies to us in everyday waking life. It's an everyday thing that we're doing. We're manifesting constantly, whether it's something fearful or something loving. So, manifestation 101, law of attraction 101, whatever you think about, good or bad, it grows. You know, we're all aware of this stuff, but usually we're intellectualizing it. Usually we're making it far more complex than it needs to be. I loved when Ivana shared a couple of days ago about it's about love and play. I absolutely live by that when I'm on my synchronicity walks. Who's been on a synchronicity walk with me? Really? Just one in this room?
No. Who's been?
Well, oh, sorry, Donna. You've watched a few on YouTube.
You don't get cold that way.
You don't get cold that way. You're right. You're coming on the next one.
Yeah,
the one in the middle of January.
Yeah,
when it's wet.
Yes, okay.
I'm just going to call you, and it's just going to be you and me.
Done deal.
Done deal?
Yeah, done deal.
Done deal. Dean and Todd. So, when I was young, 20 years old, and I went hitchhiking for the first time, and I had already had a somewhat of a grounding of manifestation before I went hitchhiking. I would have ideas and then things would manifest. But synchronicity was something that really became prominent, really present in my life at age 20 onwards when I went hitchhiking. It was like it wanted me to see transparently that there was a force of nature that was looking after me in a loving way. I would set out on the road. I remember the very first time I set out on the road, it was in Tampa, Florida. I was on Interstate 75 and I was heading north. I put up my thumb, and I didn't wait very long, maybe 10 minutes. 20 years old, I had the world at my feet at that point. Didn't have a passport, but I had ambition. And I thought, I'm just going to go. I'm going to go and find myself, because I'd screwed up a couple relationships, you know, made my stepfather a really angry man. I thought, I'm just going to leave and see if I can go and sort myself out. Put my thumb up. About 10 minutes, the guy pulls over, but he was speeding along on the motorway, and he was maybe 50 yards ahead of me, so I was running with my bags. And on the way there, I was like, suddenly the fear mind comes up, and the fear mind was like, what if he's a mass murderer? And you're running towards his car so willingly, and I was like, oh shit, never thought about that, but I kept running anyhow. And I got there, and he literally got out of the driver's side, came over, opened the passenger side, he goes, throw your bags in, and there was like one lone bag on the other side. It was like, suddenly the fear mind again was like, that was the last hitchhiker's bag. And I was like, fucking stop trying to, you know, the negative stuff, fuck off. And I put my bags in, and I got in the front seat, and it was great, actually. He was a long-haul driver, so he wasn't just local traffic. He went all the way as far as, I think it was Alabama, before we parted company. And we had a great conversation, really enjoyed it. And I did a little stint as far over as to Arizona to Sedona, stayed there for a little while, and then came home again. And that was like my first experience of a long hitchhiking trip, and that was thousands of miles. And there was a lot of amazing experiences that happened there, including one day just sort of walking along the highway out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, this was like almost like country lanes, and there hadn't been any traffic. And this guy literally lands a Cessna plane on the road and asks where I'm going. And I was like, what? And I said, I'm kind of just hitchhiking. I'm not really going anywhere in particular. He goes, well, that's perfect. Get in. And he just gave me a short little lift to the airport. But it was just one of those moments. It's like, why would somebody do that? Wasn't the backpack? You know, what was it that made him think, I'm going to make this guy's day? For fun. Yeah, it was probably just fun for him. Maybe it was just like, because he had the opportunity to do it. But yeah, it was really quite amazing. So anyhow, I made my way back to Florida at some point, hung out there for a few more months, and then decided I'm gonna hit the road again, because it was like I was homesick the first time. Came back to Florida, and then again I thought, okay, I'm going on the road again, but I'm going to Alaska. And I think it was February. And I'm a Florida boy, and I always have Sky can confirm this. Some of my son's friends, Luke's friends, will come over to our house, and they're walking down the basement stairs, and I'm standing at the door, and one of them the other day was so cheeky, he was like, I don't have to look, Todd, you're wearing cut-off jean shorts? And that's how I grew up. I just always had cut-off jean shorts, my deck shoes, no socks, t-shirt, and because I'm a Florida boy, grew up in the heat. The 2 seasons, you know, it's hot and it's hot. And so I grabbed a bag and I grabbed a jacket that I thought might come in handy since I'm going to Alaska. I've heard it snows up that way. And hitchhiking up there, I get to Michigan, which is the state right before the border to Canada. And it did start getting a little bit colder than what I was expecting. And I remember having my hitchhiking thumb out like this, and it kept getting really cold, and I was like, oh my God. And so I put it under here to warm it up, and I do this. And I was thinking, oh God, could you really use some gloves, you know? And the guy pulls over, and we're exchanged pleasantries, and I'm telling him about my hands are just frozen. It's great. I'm just warming them up on this dash heater. And he goes, oh, don't worry about that. And he popped his glove box, and out popped these really warm gloves. He goes, you take those. Those are yours. And it was just instant generosity. There was no hesitation on his part, and I was like, "Oh man, that's so kind. Thank you so much." And he dropped me off. He was local traffic. I get out and I was like, "Yay!" And I put out my thumb and I was like, "Oh, my thumbs are so toasty. This is great. I can do this all day now." And like 5 minutes later, I'm like, "My ears. I can now feel my ears." And I'm like, "Oh shit!" And so now I'm like, you know, this and this and I'm just suddenly visualizing this perfect hat, like this Russian furry thing that, you know, the hat I'm talking about, the big fuzzy thing. And I'm just visualizing that. I got my thumb out there and like this. And the very next guy picks me up, get in the car, and I was telling him about the cold thumbs, and then the last guy gave me his gloves. And then I got out of the car, I was like all smug, like, you know, I'm set now for cold weather. And then I said, my ears, I can feel my ears. And he's like, oh my God, yeah. And he goes, ah. And he just kind of like that. He's like, ah. And he goes in the back and he pulls out this hat, looked like exactly the Russian hat I was visualizing. And he was like, take it. And I was like, my God, what is this? And it was just, I've got my gloves, I got my hat, and he was local traffic. He dropped me off. And I'm standing on the side of the road with this hat. My ears are warm and my thumbs are warm. And like, what was that? Like 2 cars in the row, one visualization, got the gloves. One visualization about the hat, got the gloves. And I was like, that was so special. And I was like, Jesus was my go-to, you know, energy at the time. I was like, thank you, Jesus. I really grew up with Jesus, and I loved the idea of Jesus. And I was like, thank you, Jesus. Thank you for this day. Thank you for these gloves. Thank you for this hat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm standing there with my warm fingers, my warm thumbs, and my warm ears. And then I finally realized I was standing on frozen ground with tennis shoes, flat shoes. None of you are wearing something flat, like a deck
moccasins.
shoe. Kind of like moccasins, but yeah, just a flat deck shoe, like a tennis shoe. All-Stars. That's what I was wearing, All-Stars, you know? Converse. So I'm wearing Converse, no socks. And the cold is just going right through the shoe, right through my bones. And I'm just like, now I'm like hopping around and standing on one leg like a stork, and then I stand on the other leg. And the guy pulls over and get in the car, and we're driving, and I'm telling him about the fingers and the thumbs and the ears and the hat and the gloves. And he says, oh, wow, that sounds a great story. And he goes, where are you heading to? And I said, Alaska. And he goes, you got to be kidding me. He goes, with that little bag? You go, what do you got in that bag? Has he got like magic bag? You got like, you know, big furry coats? And I was like, no, this is all I've got. And he goes, what about boots and stuff? I was like, he's looking at my shoes like, those aren't going to cut it. And literally we drive right into some snow now. And the snow's coming down, and it's almost like a blizzard. And we get to the border between Michigan and Canada. And he goes, this is as far as I can take you. He's like, good luck. I step out of the car, and my foot goes straight down into like snow about that deep. And the snow goes right into my shoe, no socks. And I'm like, welcome to Canada. And so he said, look, there's a youth hostel just down the road there. Why don't you go check in there for the night? Because it was starting to get dark. There's no way I was going any further. And I said my goodbyes, and I didn't sort of head straight there because I was like, I knew I only had $10 in my pocket. And I knew the youth hostel would probably take most of that money, so I was hesitant. But I thought, I've been shown mercy, I've been shown kindness, I've been shown that, like it says in the Bible, as again referring back to my Bible days as a kid, that if all the animals are looked after, why won't we? And so I thought that. I thought, okay, I'm going to the youth hostel because where else am I going to sleep? So I went in, got checked in, met the manager, went and sat down, and I had a little bit of food with me, and I was eating that. And he came up to me, and he was curious, where are you heading to? I said, Alaska. And he was like, he looked at my shoes, and he was like, are those the only shoes you've got? And I was like, yeah, that's all I've got. And he was like, you did see how much snow was out there. He said, it's going to be a lot more when you cross the border tomorrow. And I was like, it's all I've got. I haven't really got enough money. But I wasn't like being a beggar. I wasn't there down and out. I was like, I'll manage. Something will come up. And he goes, just wait here. And he trundled off, and he comes back a few minutes later with a brand new pair of boots. He goes, I don't know if these will fit you. Somebody basically handed them in like a week ago. Nobody's claimed them. They're like brand new. He goes, if they fit, they're yours. And I was like, fit, please fit, please fit. And I first put it up to my shoe, and I was like, that looks like a fit. And I took on my shoe and put it on. It was a perfect fit. Brand new boots. 20 years old.
And socks.
Well, have it all, Yan. I mean, come on. Socks, hat, boots. Hat pants. Although in America we call pants something different than in the UK. Yeah. And the next day I crossed the border, and it was just torrential. It was like blizzard, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do the smart thing now. I'm going to do the wise thing. I'm not going any further than this. I thought I'm going to go back into the lower 48 states. I'm going to just see where this goes, and I'll try again another season maybe. And I did. I went back into the lower 48 states, and I hitchhiked pretty much for the next few years. And it was, I think, 2 years into the hitchhiking journey before I attempted it again. And it was a different type of year. It was in the summertime where it would be the midnight sun, so it would be a lot of sunlight for like 22 hours, and even when the sun goes down, it's still light on the horizon, and it's ambient light. So I'm on my way, and the whole time I'm hitchhiking for 2 years, I had this electric razor. And I discovered very quickly that if I left it for a few days, 3 or 4 days, a week maybe, without taking a shower or a bath, I'd get into somebody's car, and they're like, before I get in, they're like, how far are you going? I'm like, oh, I'm going to California. And they're like, 3 states away. And they're like, oh, great, I'm going that way too. And I get in, and after minutes, they're like, oh, I just remembered I have to, So I realized very quickly I needed to look after my body. So I would go into laundromats like once a week, and I would get my clothes washed. And while I was there, I would cheekily plug into their electric supply, and I would shave, and I'd go in their bathroom, and I would completely wash myself. And that was my routine. So I kept myself nice and tidy. And I remember 2 years in, my electric razor finally conked out. And it was given to me by one of my older brothers. And electric razors, even these days, a good one can cost $50, $100, or $200 or more. Back then, they were definitely, the low end was $200, $300 in America. And so I didn't have the money for that. And it broke, and I thought, okay, I'm no good at the dry or the wet shaving. It just doesn't work for me. I always tear myself up. So I thought, I'm just going to let it grow. And most of you will know, men or women, when you let hair grow long enough, it starts getting to that in-between point, that itchy point, especially like here on the neck. And I was constantly like this, scratching and itching. And this one guy picked me up a couple weeks into this, routine, and we're driving along for quite a distance. We even I know we went. I'm sure we spent more than a day with each other, looking back on it. And finally, when he came to the crossroads where he was going this way and I was going that way, he like minutes before I get out of the car, he finally asked. He goes, "Why don't?" I said, "Why don't you just shave? You can see your discomfort there." And I explained the electric razor story to him, and I said, "I've been using an electric razor for 2 years. My brother gave it to me. It broke down. I don't really have that money, so I just thought I'd just grow a beard because of the wet shaving issue." And he just, "Oh, okay," and pulls up the car, starts saying goodbye. He goes, wait a second. He goes, "Come to the back of the car." come to the back of the car, to the trunk, the boot. And I was like, he wants me to come to the boot. I was like, this is the axe murderer. This is the mass murderer. And so anyhow, I come to the back of the car, and I'm like just standing a little bit of ways back because I'm going to be ready. And he unlocks the trunk, pops open. And I kid you not, there were like 4 boxed, brand new electric razors. Brand new boxed electric razors. And I was just, I was like, what? And he was like, just take one. And I was like, why do you have 4 boxed razors in the back of your car? And he's like, I'm a salesman, and this is the company I work for, and it's your lucky day. And I was like, this ain't luck. This is a blessing. This is a blessing from above. This was complete synchronicity. And, that kind of stuff was now regularly happening to me on the road. I literally learned at that young age that my default mode became gratitude. Every day I was anything that happened, the smallest thing, I was thankful. At the end of each day, as I laid my head down, that was the last thing. I was always finding shelter, one way or the other. Somebody would say, here, sleep on my sofa. The last person that was giving me a ride, sleep on my sofa tonight. Thank you, great. I've got a whole mansion. You can stay in, the West Wing. I was like, oh, great, okay, West Wing is mine. Or I would find some kid's tree fort, and I would sleep there with a sleeping bag. But I was always taken care of. And as I laid my head down, I'd go to Jesus, and I'd say, Jesus, thank you for this day. Thank you for this food, the water, the shelter, the clothing, for everything. Thank you for the kind strangers. Thank you for the lifts. And my heart was just full of gratitude. How do you think that set me up for the next day, going to sleep that way? Instead of going to sleep with your mind in a bit of a muddle. Maybe where, we have these moments of, at work, difficult moments, we get angry, we're obsessing about the past, we're stressed and anxious about the future. That wasn't my reality. My reality was pure gratitude, and those were my last thoughts for the day. I remember on one morning, I woke up the next morning, immediately was back on the road. There was the ramp going up to the freeway, the highway, the motorway. And this hitchhiker was just coming off the ramp. And he was like, man, don't even bother. There's plenty of traffic, but none of these assholes are picking anybody up. And he's, I've been standing out here for hours now. And I was like, I'm really sorry to hear that. And he walked off, and I walked out, and I put my bag down. And the moment I put my bag down, this guy goes, "Erp!" And I look back, and you could see the other hitchhiker. He was like a couple hundred meters away, and he was like, bastard! That was mine! And I was like, I got in the car, go! I didn't do that. But it was just one of those moments where it was like, later on in life, I was at this motivational talk. And one of the speakers got up and he told this story about these riders that came to the top of this mountain pass. And he said at the top of the mountain pass was a monastery where there was a monk tending the garden out at the front. And he said the first rider came up on a horse, got to the top of the mountain pass, and there was a village that he was going to down below. And he was coming from the village on the other side of the pass, on the other side of the mountain. And he said to the monk, he said, monk, fetch my horse some water. Fetch my horse me some water. And the monk came, got the water, watered the horse, gave the man some water. And the man said, what are the people like in that village down there? And the monk said, what were the people like in the village you just came from? See, they were a horrible lot. They'd take the shirt right off your back. And the monk said, I think you're going to find people in the village down below are just like that. And so the rider went on. And the next rider came, and he stopped. And the monk came up, and the horseman was like, oh, dear sir, oh, thank goodness you're here. Would you mind? Would you be so kind as to offer a rider and his horse some refreshment? And the monk was, oh, of course, of course. He ran off and brought the water back, and the rider said, dear sir, would you mind offering just a little bit more information? The village down below, what are the people like? And the monk said, what were the people like in the village you just came from? And he said, oh, they were the kind-hearted people you could ever imagine. They would give you the shirt off their back. And the monk was like, you'll find people in this village are exactly like that. Do you get it? Mm-hmm. It was like that for me on the road, and it was like that for that hitchhiker. He was frustrated. He was in that energy of now anger, blame, judging everybody. It's like, so what if I look dirty and I got a long beard and I look like Charles Manson? Pick me up! It's just like, and then here comes this all-American boy, clean-shaven, for my new razor. Clothes are nice and form-fitting, you know. Big smile, and I even put on an act for him. I always had like oxide zinc colored, you know, for my nose, like green, bright green, fluorescent, whatever. Just to protect my nose from burning. So I had like a clown nose almost, and I would stand there sometimes and just juggle 3 balls because, you know, I just like to juggle. And
He still likes to juggle.
still love to juggle. And you know, would you pick, you know, that person up versus a person that was just, you could just sometimes feel the energy of people?
Well, no,
Can you not?
Hey!
That was a lovely clown. Pardon?
The secret,
sure.
what the speaker says, gratitude is the way to bring more into your life.
Yeah, and it is. And, you know, this whole hitchhiking journey was just filled with these experiences. And I remember finally, I'm now in Washington State, and I'm making my second attempt to get to Alaska. Again, I didn't have much money in my pocket, so I thought, okay, on this occasion, when I go across the border, I'm going to cross the border legally, because I then learned by that time that when they cross the border, you know, if anybody picks you up at the time, I think the people really felt, I don't know if it was a law, but I remember a couple Canadians picking me up and saying, if we pick up a hitchhiker, we're responsible for you until we drop you off. And so I'm thinking I'm just going to cross the border because the border guards might ask me if I have money, and if they figure out I don't, they'll probably just say, look, you're not coming through Canada. And so I thought, okay, I'm fine. I'm going to cross the border legally. And I couldn't have been maybe 100 miles away from Seattle where I was then going to figure out how I was going to cross. And I got up one day and I'm walking along the highway and I thought, I really want to gather my energy about this. I really want to know what I'm going to do. And so there was a verge, a ditch that went down. And I thought, it's so easy to get a ride. I'm just going to go down here and I'm going to walk for maybe a couple miles. And I'm going to just really figure this out. And so I'm walking down in this ditch and maybe you could see my head bobbing along from the road. And this guy almost plows down this verge and he pulls over and he literally opens the door, jumps out, and goes, you, sir, gentlemen, would you mind driving? And it's like, what? And it's like, I'm just having a walk. I don't need a lift. And he's like, but I need you. I've been driving all night. I'm about to fall asleep. I don't care if you have a license. Can you drive? And I was like, I do have a license. I can drive. And he goes, please. And I was like, okay, you know, I'll drive. And I get in, and he's like, tells me where we're going, and he goes, just drive. And he's waking up, and he's nodding off, and he's waking up, and he's like, where are you heading? I said, Alaska. And he goes, oh, that's amazing. I'm heading to Alaska. He goes, but I'm not driving all the way there. I'm flying there. I've got my own twin-engine plane. I could fly you there. And I was like, that's amazing. This guy's become like my best friend. And he goes, I'm not going directly there. It'll be a couple of weeks. So my mom and dad have this big house. You know, you're more than welcome to just kick about. And I was like, I was always really impetuous. I was always in the mood to just go and do stuff. And I had few patience. And he goes, let's just pull over to the airport, the little municipal airport. And he goes, I'm just going to check the plane and then we'll go to my mom and dad's house. I go, that's great. And we get to the plane, we park up, and he starts pulling birds' nests out of the engines. And he was like, oh, I haven't flown it in a while, but it'll be okay. I'll get my mechanic to check it over. And I was like, I ain't going in that plane. And we get to his mom and dad's, and he goes, okay, here's food, there's your room. And I slept. And in the morning I wake up and I said, look, I really appreciate your kindness, but I've got my mind set to leave today. I really know I need to go today. I said, give me your information or somewhere to meet you in Alaska, because I was going to Juneau, and that's where he was going, which is the capital of Alaska. And he goes, I'll meet you there. And I said, okay, great. So we decided this. He goes, I'll give you a ride down to, you know, the border area. And we're driving, and he was just like, this just isn't right. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, you know, you're planning to cross the border illegally. He goes, I just don't feel good about that. And I was like, hello, it's my journey. And, you know, I'm not quite saying anything, but he's like, I'm really concerned for you. I'm like, I'm okay, I promise, I can do this. I've done things like this. And he goes like, I know, but I'm going to be thinking about you all day long, and I'm worrying. And like, we don't need to worry, just drop me off. And he's like, trust me, just trust me. And I was like, okay, I trust you. And we drive down into the port area of Seattle. And all of a sudden, these huge cruise ships come into view. And we park, and he goes, follow me. And we go up to the ticket office for one of these massive ferry ships. But these ferry ships are like, they're cruise ships. They're huge things. And he goes up to the ticket counter. He goes, "How much for foot passage?" And it was like a 4-day journey through Prince William Sound, you know, these beautiful landscapes up to Juneau, Alaska. And the guy behind the counter said $400. And this guy got his wallet out, no hesitation. $1, $2, $3, $400. And I was just like, by that time I learned not to look the gift horse thing in the mouth. I had no issue with accepting a stranger's kindness by that stage. And I would just go into full gratitude. I would assess the situation, but it would be quick. I knew the guy had money. I knew the parents had money. I knew he could afford it, and I knew he wanted to do it. There was no way I was going to say, no. I was like, that is so kind. I am really grateful. I will definitely see you in Alaska. This is so generous. And I was just overwhelmed by his kindness. We said our goodbyes. I got on the boat. And the people that I met on the boat going up to Juneau, they were all filled with wanderlust like me. Every single one of them. We all had our great synchronicity stories. People were flying into Seattle. People were taking the bus. One guy all the way from New Zealand. And we were just all these characters, all these multidimensional types, and it was just all the black sheep of their families on this boat going to Juneau, Alaska. And it was like the crowning glory of my entire hitchhiking trip. 3 years, I still did almost another year after I came back from Alaska. But it was one of my profound experiences because all that stuff that led up to it, all of those teachings where reality is constantly showing me this reality of fear or love. And I was in the love vibe most of the time when I was on that trip. There were moments where there was some darkness. There were moments where, I was having a few bad days. But because of everything I was learning, I knew how to pick myself up. I knew how to self-soothe. I knew that I was being looked after. I thought about my early days of a kid where I met my guides. I met Blue, my high guide. I met the Tweedle twins. I knew somebody was there. I knew they were the ones synchronizing the lift with, the guy with the razor. I knew they were the ones probably synchronized all this stuff. Synchronicity literally became an everyday experience for me. Eventually I came to London, England. Synchronicities just wouldn't stop. I was out my final hitchhiking trip. I'd come back from Alaska. I'd been hitchhiking in the lower 48 states for, a bit of time again. I was coming from Colorado, and I was thinking about heading back to Florida because I hadn't seen my mom in a while. I thought I'd go and visit her. And as I was coming from Colorado, got dropped off somewhere in New Mexico out in the middle of nowhere. And it was getting dusk. And there just weren't many rides, many people driving by. And suddenly this convoy of trucks come from the west, and they're going east, and they've all got their headlights on because it's now getting a little bit darker. And as they get closer and closer, I could tell there was sign writing on the side of these trucks. And the first one went by, and it was like, and then the next one, it was like, and the third one, the inner child was like, pick me up, pick me up, pick me up, because it was the circus. It was a traveling circus. And I was like, please pick me up, please pick me up, please pick me up. And they were like, it was like, please pick me up, please pick me up. And the final one, and they all went, and seeing them disappearing into the east, and I was like, And then I look around, and coming from the west, one more truck. And I like dug in my boots, and I was like, okay, come on, guys. And I just visualized this guy pulling over and me getting in the cab and us greeting each other. I've perfectly visualized it. And he goes, and I was like, ah! And about maybe 100 meters, he goes, pulls in. And I was I picked up my bags and I ran. I thought, he's not going to be one of those jerks where you get right to the car and he pulls away. I was like, where'd that come from? And I got there and I opened the door and I throw my bags up in this tall rig and I poke my head in. He goes, get on in. He's like, where are you heading? I said, I'm heading to Florida. And he goes, well, we're heading to Texas, Tyler, Texas. And one of my hitchhiking names was Tyler McKenzie. I had a couple aliases, and that was one of them. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's one of my aliases. I'll get in. And we're driving along, and he's like, are you in a rush to get to Florida? And I was like, not really. And he's like, well, I work with the circus. I've got a couple, the stuff in the back is all mine. The truck's mine. We all band together. We go places. And I've got a couple kiddie gaming stuff. And he goes, I've got one where we set up like a tent. It's all open. It's like a gazebo, a large gazebo thing. And we put up these counter spaces where people stand on the perimeter. I put up these small catapults, and we get these rubber frogs, and we put on the catapults, and we got these mallets for the kids. And in the middle, there's this pond, and we fill it with water, and it's all electric, and the lily pads are floating around. And if they land a frog on the lily pad, then they win a prize. And I was like, that sounds awesome. He was like, if you can run that booth for me, I'll run the other one, because I lost my last guy. And he goes, you run that booth, I'll run this other one, and I'll give you 25% of all the takings. I was like, man, that sounds great, 25%. I was like, damn. And we got to Tyler, Texas, and we set up, and it was hard work setting up all this stuff. And we had to set up, the both of us, 2 stands. And he goes, you can sleep in the back of the truck. And I was like, dang, yeah, I'll sleep in the back of the truck, save some money there. And got up the next morning, went to work. The crowd came in, and he was like, you know, you got to work them a little bit, but you'll get the idea. People walking by, nobody's stopping, and then I start talking to people, you know, hello, and tipping my hat because I'm wearing a baseball hat, of course. And you know, eventually a couple people come, the kids come, and a couple people are playing. And by the end of the night, I think I made him something like $100. And he was happy with that. He was actually really happy with that. He goes, here's your $25. You can sleep in the back of the truck. And I'm like, saving money, got $25. You know, like, all's good. And next day come, and evening, and the crowds come in, and I'm learning to work the crowds a little bit better. And that night, I think I took him something like $200. And he comes at the end of the night, he's really happy. He's like, here's your $50. I'm like, $50, sleep in the back of the truck? Dang, all is good. The next day comes, and it's like, I think, our final night there in that city. And I really learned how to work the crowd. And I made him something like $500. And he was like, dang, that's really good. He goes, for somebody new, he goes, that's great. He goes, here's your money, $125, whatever it was. And I was like, man, I'm rich, you know, because I never had that much money hitchhiking. I was like, wow. Holy crap. And we pick up, we leave Tyler, Texas, we go to another city in Texas, and again, hard work breaking it down, hard work setting it up again, and now I'm kind of familiar with what I need to do. And the night comes when I banked $2,000 for this guy, $2,000, because I really learned to create like a feeding frenzy like sharks. You know, these kids and the parents like, get in there. I'll make a kid get in there and try that catapult and that frog thing. And I was like, yeah, you come on in. And teddy bears are going, and you know, people are winning stuff, and more people coming in. You know what it's like, you know, sometimes you're at like a craft fair and their crafts just aren't flying off the shelf, and then suddenly you got a little bit of a interest, and then somebody else comes and there's a little bit of a crowd, suddenly everybody wants a pink hairbrush, and it's like, what are you going to do with that? But that's how it goes. So and I showed the guy the money, he's like, holy shit, he goes, wow, that's $500 for you, and I was like, dang right. Gives me my money, and I go sit in the back of the truck, and all the other, you know, circus folk have gone to their places where they sleep, and I'm sitting on the back of the truck with all this wad of money and from the other places, and I'm like, got all this, and I was like, oh man, couldn't stop looking at it, put it in my pocket, and then suddenly the seriousness comes in, because out of the blue, I had this thought, and I knew it was a guide, and it was like, it's time to leave, Tyler, and it was like, no, there must be a mistake. This is home now. I'm part of the circus, you know. Every kid's dream, and it was like, it's time to go. And it was really clear. And I'd learned to trust that voice. I had really deeply learned to trust that voice, and it was like, man, but, okay, and I thought, okay, I'm going to bargain with this guy. I'm going to bargain with it. And I was like, okay, I got an idea. I got my pack of cards out because I'm always playing solitaire places when you know, I've got a bit of time, and I thought, okay, I'm going to shuffle the deck. Okay, I'm shuffling the deck, and I said, if I pull out one particular card, I'll hit the road tomorrow. And I was like, it's stacked in my favor. I was like, 9. There's only 4 9s, and then there's 48 of the other stuff. I was like, I got this guy. And I shuffle him, pull the card, smug, said 9. I was like, duh! And I was like, I'm going to stay true to this. I even tried to have like a get out of jail free card, and it's like, no, confirmed, you're going. And so come morning time, I said to the guy, you know, my manager, I was like, I've really loved working with you, and this has been great fun, and I really appreciate all your kindness. Let me sleep in the truck, you know. And he was like, why do you need to go? And I was like, it's Florida, you know. And he was like, oh yeah, of course. And we said our goodbyes, and I went out on the highway and hitchhiked, and I got all the way to Florida, which, you know, it's over 1,000 miles, I guess, from Texas. And suddenly I thought, or I had another download, and it was like, you need to go. You need to go out of America now. You know it. You know where it goes. You know all about it. You've done most of the states. And it's like, that feels good, actually. So I went home to see my stepdad and my mom, and I owed my stepdad a bit of money, so I paid him some money. One of my best friends that lived locally took me down to the local travel agents because I was dead set now. I went into the travel agents and I said to him, I'd like to go to an English-speaking country. So I had choices. I was England, Australia, New Zealand. And I thought, okay, England, because that was one of the cheapest fares. And so I said to her, I'd like to travel on the 16th of October. And it was only like maybe the 7th of October, something like that. And she came back, paid for my ticket, gave me the ticket. I still hadn't had a passport yet, but I knew my two older brothers lived in Washington, D.C., and that was on the way to New York, where I was going to fly from. So I thought I'll save myself a little bit of travel journey because I know how to hitchhike. So went to Washington, D.C., got my passport, stayed with my brothers a few days, left myself enough time to get to New York City. Got to New York City, was at the airport. By the time I got to the airport, in the airport, I was flat broke again. After paying my stepdad back, getting the passport, some other bits and pieces, I had no more money again. And I think I had like 10 cents. And I was just convinced everything would be fine. So I'm at the airport, and I woke up that morning with this strong feeling that I was going to meet somebody important on the plane. And I'm playing solitaire, and these two women walk by. Everybody's filing in, and these two women walk by, and one of them was Redhead, and I was like, oh, it's got to be the Redhead. And Skylar wasn't even born yet. She was on the astral still. And with the angels who were looking after me, like with Sky. And I got on board the flight, no money, didn't even have a bag down below, just had my backpack, put it up in the hold area, and the Redhead was coming on with her friend, Brunette. And the Redhead sat right behind me. I was like, this is fate, this is fate. And the Brunette sat right across the aisle from me. And I was like, this is definitely fate. And right as they were about to close the door, they came over the tannoy and they were like, we need somebody to get off the flight. We're fully booked and we've got somebody that needs to get on this flight. We'll give you a $400 travel voucher and an upgrade to first class on the next flight. And I was like, bing, I was straight there. Nobody got there before me. I was pushing old ladies out of the way. I was just, I didn't do that. That's an embellishment. I didn't, she fell on her own. And bad karma. And I got to the front, and I mean, it couldn't have been but less than a minute. And I got up there, and they're like, oh, sorry, we don't actually need the space now. I was like, what do you mean you don't? I was like, and I just, tail between legs, went and sat down. And going back to the travel agent. So after she gave me my ticket, and it was on my way to, I was a whole state away, maybe Georgia. I looked at the ticket, and instead of the 16th, it said the 18th. And I was a little bit annoyed by that, she forgot, and she added 2 more days on that. So I just came to terms with it. I'm now traveling on the 18th. I'm on the plane, and I can't get off and get my $400 travel voucher in first class. And so I'm there, and I'm just, thank you anyhow, universe. I'm really grateful for all this. And it wasn't the last, I think it was the last 15 minutes of the flight where the brunette, who was sitting across from me, I was like trying to check out Ireland because it was so green and it was like, oh my God, look at that. And she was like, would you like to change seats? I was like, I'd love that, thank you. And we swapped seats because she was British and she'd seen it all. And I was like, my God, that is so green. I couldn't get over it. And she goes, where are you coming from? Where are you going? And we got talking. And she goes, I went hitchhiking for the last couple of years, backpacking, actually, she said, to like Australia, New Zealand, Thailand, all these places. She goes, do you know anybody in England, in London? I said, no, I don't know anybody. And she was like, give me your, I'll give you my number or whatever. She goes, and I got out my little black book and she wrote her details. She wrote her name, her phone number, and her full address. And it was a place called North Harrow, which is in London, like a little village area in Greater London. And got off the plane, said goodbye to them both. And she said, just call if you need a place to stay, because my mom and dad, I stay with them, and they would totally understand because all the strangers that were kind to me when I was backpacking, and they'd totally understand. I was like, that's great. So I thought, I'm just going hitchhiking. And so I went hitchhiking. I was like 2 weeks on the road through England, got to Bristol after a couple weeks, went into the youth hostel, checked myself in. I was in the lounge, and I met this French girl. And she was telling me about her travels. I was telling you about her, about mine. And she said, where are you heading after this? I said, back to London probably. She goes, oh, I'm based in London at the moment. And she goes, let me give you my details. And no mobile phones at that time, so it's all landline numbers and addresses. And I took out my black book, And it turned to the same page. I didn't purposely do it. It turned to the same page as the other woman put her details. And this French woman wrote in all her details. And I looked at it, and it was North Harrow again. I was like, oh, that must be a big part of London, this North Harrow. And eventually I got back to London, and I called the first woman. And she said, yeah, I've already told my mom and dad that you might be coming, might be calling. They've got a room ready for you. And I went over to hers, and I got to North Harrow. It's this tiny little part of London. You know, London's like massive. It was like not 1% of London, tiny little place. And I did think a little bit about it. I thought that's pretty amazing in itself, that, you know, coincidence of both these people being from here. And anyhow, I was there with this woman and her family for about a week, and then her and I started really getting on well, and then, you know, we got on really well, and then
I knew you weren't a virgin when we met, honey. It's okay.
I know.
Virgin
I know.
husband.
I was a virgin. I was 3 years when I was hitchhiking. I was celibate for 3 years. And up until that moment, I was still celibate, actually. And so we were getting on really well.
By choice?
By choice. By choice.
Fair
I mean, come on.
You did have that guy in the car about the, you know, like,
You know?
yeah.
Tell me about it. Chicka bow wow, you know? So we're getting on really well, and we decided we were going to go to the local shopping center one day. She goes, I'll take you to Brent Cross, and we'll have a look at this, you know, this mall or shopping, whatever they call it in England. And we're leaving the door, and her father runs out, and he has like this container business, plastic containers. You know, he sells containers, and he goes, there's a local company just down the road, you two. Can you take these samples to them? And we're like, of course. We pile in her car. We get to what we think is the correct address. The woman gets out. She goes in with the containers, comes back out. Goes, no, it's not them. And it's like a little industrial estate, so it's easy to get confused. And we went to the next building. She went in, came back out. She's like, it's not them. Got to the third building on this estate. And I said, oh, give me the containers. Let me go in. Went in on a Saturday. They were open. Behind the reception desk was the French girl. Behind the reception desk was this French girl. You think if I would have let this woman go in a third time, I'd have never seen the French girl. If she would have got the address right the first time, I'd have never seen the French girl. And then it hit me. I just suddenly, I remember I was just sort of in a real daze. I went back to the car, and I sat down, and this woman was looking at me, looking at my face, and she's like, are you okay? And I said, yeah. She goes, you were in there a bit of a while, and she's just looking at my face and like, is it okay? She goes, you got lipstick all over your face. Because this French girl was like, mwah, mwah, mwah. And I was like, oh! It's like, it's not what you think. It's like, a couple of weeks, you know, I was over in Bristol and met this French girl, and she gave me her numbers to this, and she's like, right? Not at all what you think. I was like, no! But then the gravity was really hitting me. Originally, I wanted to travel in the 16th. That was my plan. And somehow the travel agent got the 18th. If I would have traveled on the 16th, I wouldn't have met the woman that eventually became my wife and the mother of my 3 children, including Luke. And I thought about this. I thought, what if I would have traveled on the 16th? I wouldn't have met my future wife on that flight.
Which one of the two?
That was the first woman I met. Yeah. And then I thought, I would have probably still gone to Bristol, though. And I would have probably still met the French girl. I'd have probably come back towards London, looked her up, maybe been bebopping around North Harrow, this tiny little village, and bumped into my future wife as a backup. The French girl was like the backup plan. She wasn't my backup plan, soulmate wife. It was still the same woman, but she was like the redundancy, the synchronicity redundancy built in, just in case, like on SatNav, we're driving along, we've got it already calculated, our destination, we make the wrong turn, it recalibrates, it says next left. The French girl was my next left. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes, I love the Adjustment Bureau.
Which film?
It's called the Adjustment Bureau. So this kind of stuff, you know, was always happening to me. And, you know, from that age, I just grew up with it. So I want to give you thanks, darling. I want to give you a couple ideas of things that, you know, I feel I was really benefiting from without it being taught to me by a teacher. It was being taught to me by direct experiences. So this is... Yeah. I love the law of attraction too. I think the law of attraction, The Secret as an example, with Rhonda Burns. You know, I think she gets such a bad rap from the superior spiritual community. I think she's done a wonderful job in the sense it's like a brilliant entry level of law of attraction and manifestation. And I think anything like that, any teaching like that of any entry level, it's just like with David Icke's work. You know, David Icke is waking the people up that are coming in at a different angle. And you may not like a lot of his work because there's a lot of fear around it, but there's a lot of love in that guy's heart too. There's a lot of love in his teachings. And it's like no matter where people are coming, something's going to serve them and can take them then deeper. And then another...
Trump supporter?
Pardon?
Isn't he a Trump supporter?
I have no idea. No idea.
I couldn't find no love in anybody else.
I don't know. I don't know. And to be honest, it's just like it's one of those things where there's always a part of somebody that can resonate with you. And I try to find that in all people. And it serves me really well to do that. I mean, I have my instant judgments. I have my instant moments of blaming people, but I know that's an attack on myself as much as them. I've just learned that. So one of the things a couple things I'd like to share, and some of this you're going to know, but this is the thing about spiritual journey and life in general. Most of the time, we're getting refresher courses of what we already know, but yet something that we haven't quite applied yet, we're still intellectualizing it. You understand what I'm saying? I still have areas where I'm still doing that too. So these are some of my core feelings about this stuff and core thoughts. I do honestly feel that, your manifestation powers are equal in strength to your manifestation knowledge applied. We've learned so much. We've learned so much about the law of attraction. We've seen it happen in action in our everyday lives. We react fearfully and things sort of happen in a fearful way. It's like a mirror. We start reacting in a loving way, we see things start mirrored back to us in a loving way. I think we've all discovered now, by this point in our lives, that we do have a need to love and be loved. It's like, to me, it's one of our core missions here on earth. There are endless ways to find to love and be loved. It is learning just to get to that point to where it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe. Accept that this person right now is feeling a lot of fear. This person is really shut down. This person is finding it difficult even to receive, let alone give. Just being kind and compassionate towards people in this way. And like I've said, it's okay to be generous. This is something that I really developed in those hitchhiking years. I learned to be generous, but have boundaries if I need to. And literally on the way down in the van, Alexander, if you're there, we're listening to Brené Brown tell us the same thing. She's literally talking about generosity, but the people who are the most generous have learned to set boundaries. And it just works beautifully for people. And I'm just glad I learned that at a young age, because there's so much truth in that. But like love, we've learned by now that we don't just have a need to love and be loved. We have a deep need to forgive and be forgiven. There is a forgiveness process, and I find any time there's a block in the manifestation process. One of the things I like to go to now is one of the teachings from the Course in Miracles, where the teaching is, it is not your role to manifest. Your role is to remove the blocks to manifestation. I 100% am down with that.
Like Michelangelo.
It's just that I live by that. If there is a block, it is down to me to shift from fear to love. And that therein is the miracle. And it is then when the miracle of the manifestation is usually received. Again, like the Course in Miracles would say, in these moments where we are blocked, where manifestation is not an everyday thing. Just like I was experiencing synchronicities and the kindness as an everyday thing during my hitchhiking journeys. When manifestation is not an everyday thing, it is for us to look at that and to make that shift, that it is a very personal thing, that shift, that miracle from fear to love. It is a profound thing to realize, like I was giving you one of my personal shifts, the thing I like to do, and it's gratitude. It is an active spiritual practice. It's not something that I do every now and again. It is an everyday practice for me. There are so many ways, like when I was a hitchhiker, and at the end of each day, thank you, Jesus. My last thoughts for every single day when I was hitchhiking were good thoughts, were loving thoughts, were gracious thoughts. And the Course in Miracles would say this: when you are not in that flow of manifestation, the universe is holding those gifts, holding those manifestations, holding your soulmate in grace until the moment you were able to make that shift from fear to love. To me, that's one of the most beautiful lines from that entire book. The Course in Miracles. It will hold your soulmate in grace till the time to when you are ready. It will hold those gifts, all those manifestations in grace until you are ready to see, to shift, to make that shift from fear to love. It's not saying you can't have any of that stuff until you get into a state of love. But usually a block is a block. We are blocking ourselves. The universe is not withholding. It is literally we are withholding from ourselves.
Esther Hicks says the same thing about going to bed at night. Whatever vibration you go to sleep in is what you're going to wake up in.
For sure. So for me, I'm recalibrating my nervous system on a daily basis.
This is why we get laid every night.
Are you in heat?
Yes. It's me and Power.
I know we did that chat last night.
Oh, Anne, I think you're going to have to go for a walk tonight.
See, that's what you get for videos of being celibate on the road. Again.
Earplugs. Go for a walk in the woods. Go to the Cromlech. Take a sleeping bag.
And they say the same for when you die. If you die and you wake up. So if you die in fear or terror, or so you're going to be astral in that state.
It is, we have what's called, for a lot of us, we go into what traditionally is called the big sleep. We pass to the other side, and even if it's hours, if not days, we pass into the big sleep. It's where we go into like a comatose state. And it's in those moments where, this is why a lot of indigenous peoples worldwide will do, sort of death ceremonies that last for days. Because their shamans have discovered that their loved ones are in these big sleep, this moment after death where they can become unconscious. And then they become conscious again. And yes, their first thought after that waking from that big sleep, if it's a fearful one, if it's a loving one, it can start to determine their afterlife state. Not their permanent afterlife state. Just like when we look into a mirror, when we wake up in the morning and we look into the mirror, what are we seeing reflected back to us? Yesterday's thinking, yesterday's feelings, yesterday's actions. We have two sets of eyes. We have our physical eyes, where we see, with sight, one of our five senses, and we have our spiritual eyes. It is the five senses that the fear mind uses as one of its own mechanisms to make you feel alone, like the stuff that you're praying for and manifesting and attracting to you isn't coming because it can't evidence it. Something like 99% or more of manifestation, the process is taking place behind the scenes because it's for us to remove the block. So therefore it's for us to recalibrate our thoughts, recalibrate our fears, recalibrate our turbulent emotions, which are creating and causing every single action, every single behavior. If there is a block, it is time to recalibrate. Like Marianne Williamson would say, when you wake up in the morning, make one of your first actions while you're doing something like even showering, you cleanse your emotions. because most of us are going to bed without cleansing our emotions. Most of us are not going to bed with deep gratitude. We're going to bed with obsessing about what happened earlier in the day or earlier in the week or earlier in the year, or we're stressing and anxious about what's to come tomorrow or the week to come or the month to come. We're going to bed with this sort of energy, and the moment you wake up, we're waking straight back into it. So it's a matter of recalibrating the nervous system, because your nervous system is your psychic antenna to the all that is, everything, infinity. If there is a block, your role is to remove those blocks. So for me, the process is this recalibration. That's why I love doing the synchronicity walks. So there's a couple of you here that have done the walks for me. A lot of you have seen the walks online. Let me show you what usually doesn't get seen, behind the scenes. I go around and I start posting on my meetup groups. Sometimes I go into the city, especially in the olden days when I first started doing it, I'd take printed leaflets, I'd put them in alternative cafe windows, alternative bookshop windows, sometimes in not so alternative bookshops and cafes. Just lie them around surreptitiously, put them here and there. You never know who's going to find one. Synchronicity, bing, line somebody up with that one. And then people would come on the night. There'd be a date, there'd be a time, there'd be a location. People would come, 20, 30, 40 people. I was always excited. I'd show up, and I never once thought I'd arrive and there would be nobody there. I always knew abundance, people would be there. Curiosity, whatever it was, they'd be there. And usually 15, 20, 30 people. One day I showed up, there was 100 people waiting. 100 people. I was like, how am I going to manage this? I had Sky with me. We literally had to split the group. It was like, I made it up real quick. I was like, this is one of the things we do. We split the group, and you go off that way, and we set you a task, and within 5 minutes you have to manifest a sumo wrestler, and we'll go this way, and you tell us what to manifest. Oh!
My group is frogs.
Yeah, frogs, and we had to manifest something that was just like, okay, then we'll do that, and then we'll meet up in 10 minutes and see if we manifested something. And then Sky will be the leader of your group, and I'll be the leader of that group, and then we'll go again. And we just make it fun if we have to. But the same thing, people show up, and I always do it in the week, at night, after people get off from work. Why? Because that's when they're feeling stressed, anxious, depressed. The perfect time to take them on a magic, journey across London, one of these magic mystery tours, because it will recalibrate them. So I don't mind if they show up a little bit sort of moody. To me, it didn't matter, but they'd show up, and usually they're clinging on to certainty. And they're wanting certainty from me. They're like, Todd, what do we expect tonight? It's like, I don't really know. It's always different. And they're like, but what's the plan? And I'm like, I don't really know. We always roll the dice. And the dice tell us which way to go. And they're like, you're not soothing me very much. And they're getting more anxious. It's like, you're stressing me out. It's like, but it's all good. And we have this curious effect in Synchronicity Walk sometimes. It's called falling down the crack. Where we're like, we roll the dice, and the dice says, okay, ooh, look, go left. And immediately as we roll the dice and we start to walk, and we're looking for the first left, somebody comes out of an office building, and the door is slowly shutting, and my foot somehow winds up in the door and stops it from closing. And I'm like, ooh, there's our first left. And everybody's like, we can't go in there. It's a business. And I was like, follow me. And then we go. And then suddenly we get in, and there was 20 of us. Now there's only 18 of us because 2 people fell through the crack. Fear got the better of them. And I say this to him at the beginning of the walk. You're an adult. You don't have to do everything I do. But this is my life. This is what I've learned to trust. And I'm going to follow that rabbit deep down the rabbit hole. And then I'm going to discover that rabbit is just like fate. It's my starting point. At some point, I don't need that rabbit anymore. I'm going to pass his ass. And he's going to be like, but I'm the white rabbit. You were supposed to follow me. Like, no, I'm making up my own white rabbit now. Get out of the way. This is destiny now. Fate, the lemons, the water, the sugar, and you make your own mixture, and that's destiny. Or the cards, you get dealt the cards, and it's just how you play those cards. You go from fate, which is dealt the cards, and as they say, destiny is how you play those cards. We create our destiny. And I explain this on these walks, that you're in charge. If you find at any point in the walk where you want to disappear down a crack, it's your choice. If fear gets the better of you, that's absolutely fine, but we're going to keep moving. If we all suddenly, we roll the dice, and it comes up on tempt fate, and maybe we're right in front of a big old fountain, and I say, okay, let's jump in, because that's what we're being inspired to do. You don't have to jump in. You can stand there and watch. I say to him, so far we have never gotten arrested on one of these walks before, and they're all laughing, kind of like, not quite sure if Todd means that or not. And then we just start rolling the dice. And I just know as we go, people are going to start recalibrating. They're still worried. Now they're thinking, okay, I've locked up my bike here, or I've come to this tube station. I know how to get home now. And then we roll the dice, and they're like, my God, but Todd's saying we have to follow the dice. So we roll the dice, and the dice says go left. At the beginning of each walk, we roll the dice, and we get like a group number. And this is the number that we follow like a breadcrumb trail. Whenever it occurs, if that number comes up organically, we follow it. So let's say we roll the dice, and we get like a number 6. And let's say somebody walks by with a number 6 jersey, and that's our white rabbit. And we'll follow that person for like maybe 6 minutes because that's what we rolled. So we follow that person for 6 minutes, no matter where they go. They go down in the underground, we go with them. They go in an elevator, all of us squeeze in with them, and we face that person, and they're just like, hello, personal space. And then they get out, and they look behind, and we're like, and then they walk, and we're like, And 6 minutes are up, we sort of energetically, quietly in our minds thank them, and they walk off, and they've taken us deeper down the rabbit hole. We were in no control whatsoever. We just went with the flow. We were like the consciousness of water. We just flowed down the mountain. If there's a rock, it doesn't resist, it goes over the rock. Comes to the rock, comes to a tree, it goes around the tree. Comes to any obstacle, it will go over, around. If it can't do those things, it'll start digging under, or it'll start to go over. And we're literally like the consciousness of water. We just flow. And that's what these synchronicities walks are on. And before you know it, people are starting to slowly recalibrate. They're starting to let go of the need to have a certain outcome. We have magical things happen, like what you see, on the videos. Those things actually happen all the time. Those back-to-back synchronicities. There's a bunch of them that, I've got so much video to go up still, and people are like, oh, put up the next one. It's like, I've got so much work I got to do. It's constantly events and stuff, but they'll get up there eventually. But so many wonderful things happen. Like, on one of those walks just about a year ago, we had like a yellow theme developing because we're trusting it's all going to be okay. We can follow this stuff and trust that we can get in that synchronistic flow. We can get into that flow where we can achieve like an elevated state of spirituality where anything can happen. And it's learning that when we get to that elevated state of reality, that spiritual reality, that we can actually remain there for long periods of time. Those are those back-to-back synchronicities that you hear me describe on these talks or, in the videos. And people are bowled over by this stuff because it's real. Synchronicity, like manifestation, is an everyday thing, and it's just learning to recalibrate. So by the end of these walks, people have completely forgotten their problems. They're now thinking, wow, they're in awe. That's good energy. They're like, I want more of this. And they've seen that they can actually do it themselves. They're like, I can go on my own daily synchronicity walks. People from all over the world. One of those videos went viral. I think it's got like 250,000 views, thousands of comments. People are like, Todd, can I do this idea myself? And one guy's like, I'm going to create an app. And this guy's like, I've created my own dice. Where's your address, Todd? I'm going to send you some dice. And all these generous people, and they're just taking it all over the world. And I'm like, I'm so grateful that people are just spreading that everywhere. It is about recalibrating the nervous system. That psychic antenna to everything, to your guides, passing you downloads to your guides, giving you inspiration, your messages. That's what it's about to me. It's recalibrating that nervous system. So when I go to bed, I recalibrate. I make my last thoughts gratitude about my beautiful wife. Thank the universe for a woman that I know is devoted to me, devoted to our relationship, knows how to hold her space for me. And is the most amazing stepmother on the planet. The way she is with my kids is just, with Luke. Luke's totally in awe of this woman because she's a human being and a being in general that just, she gives and she gives and she gives. So I'm grateful, and I go to sleep and I'm grateful for these things. One of the things that I advise when you wake up in the morning, before, like Marianne Williams would say, when you're taking a shower, cleanse your emotions before you get out there in the day. This is what meditation does. When you meditate, when you do something like yoga, when you do something like astral projection, This is why I say these practices are not separate from your everyday life, or any area of your life. Because as you start to use these practices to recalibrate, to quiet the mind, to quiet the emotions, that starts to serve other areas of your life. So as you go deep into meditation, deep into that forgiveness work, deep into that gratitude work, you are building your manifestation powers. You are building your willpower strength. You are building your curiosity for things like synchronicity. You're tuning in, just like we tune into something like TV. Everything we entertain ourselves with in physical reality, where it's TV, whatever it is, whatever we're entertaining ourselves, we're entraining our nervous system. Like we were talking about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. When you watch like a soap opera, what are you seeing? You're seeing people be, you're seeing criticism constantly. You're seeing people full of contempt constantly. You're seeing people be defensive constantly. You're seeing people stonewalling constantly. And it literally is calibrating your nervous system, because it's that entertainment becomes entrainment. Whatever you entertain yourself with, you pick up the newspaper in the morning. I'm not saying avoid the headlines, avoid the news, avoid the darkness, bury your head in the sand, put your hands over your eyes and complain that it's not, sunny out. No, I'm not talking about denial. If you need to see stuff, the universe will find ways for you to see it. I'm saying not to dwell in this stuff. Just like the classic law of attraction teachings, they're saying, look, but do not dwell. All spiritual traditions, genuine spiritual traditions, are saying the same thing. Look with love. Look with an open heart. Do not dwell with fear. That's what they're saying. That's the teachings. So to me, when I'm meditating, when I'm doing astral projection, when I'm doing yoga, it's about making me a better human being. That's the core of my practice. That practice is to help me become a better human being. That when I finish, I've recalibrated. I've recalibrated my thoughts and my feelings, my emotions. Therefore, that's what's going to then fuel every behavior, every single action of that day. As I then go out into the world, I view myself as being the epicenter of synchronicity. People might think, that's just arrogance. And says, no, it's really not. I walk around literally and I view myself, you can say I'm the personal epicenter for me of synchronicity. And everywhere I go, I am creating a vortex. Do I want to create a vortex of fear or a vortex of love? Because people will enter your vortex. How do you want them to enter your vortex? And this is what I'm visualizing. I'm walking through big train terminals. People are rushing by. I might be rushing by, but I can be rushing by without using people as human hurdles. Sometimes I do. And then I got to stop myself and go, wait, stop. What did you teach the other night? Walk your talk. Okay?
It's more like he goes way ahead and I'm like way behind, then he realizes I'm like two blocks behind, and you can see him because he's really tall looking back and waiting for him.
There's no hiding, all right, Todd? No hiding.
Of course. So to me, meditation is literally freeing the mind from the attachment of the body, and thus freeing the mind to right itself. This is what meditation does. That is, for me, that's the core of meditation. So before getting up, if your thing at the moment is to rush off, that's not self-love. That's something akin to self-hate. To rush off without calibrating your nervous system, because you're going to go out that door, and if you're then in blame, shame, judgment mode, you're attacking everyone you meet, including yourself. Even if they don't see it in your actions, they can feel it. How many times do people walk in the room with a storm cloud over them, and you can feel it the moment they walk in the room? You can feel it before they even get in the building. We're not islands like we've talked about. We're not islands. All minds are joined on a deeper level.
That's the other trick. When you are psychic enough to see other people's energies, don't focus on their darkness. because you'll see more darkness and pain if you focus on the darkness and pain. So one of the main things I do is every time I see a person, I ask, Creator or the universe, show me their gifts. Show me what they're here to give the world, because otherwise you'll attract like all their crap and you'll absorb it and you'll be really grumpy.
How many times I've been with other vegans and one of those vegans start, maybe we're with a non-vegan friend and that one of the vegans in our group is like, I'm suddenly craving hamburgers, and then the non-vegan speaks up, I was just craving a hamburger. You can pick up people's thoughts and feelings so easily. So it does pay a lot to really be transparent to where other people are. This really is important. I love one of Marianne Williamson's quotations. She says, there is no such thing as a neutral thought. What is not a loving thought is an attack. And that's where I get that attack idea from this quote. Because it is so true. People say to me, we can be neutral about stuff. Let's think about this. If you're in a really bad situation, really dark, do you really want your guides and your higher self to be neutral about you? They're thinking, you know what? I'm just going to be neutral about Dina today. I don't mind. Good things, bad things happen to her. It's all good at the end of the day. It may be all good in nirvana, but we're not in nirvana. We're right here in our own little hells on earth. I don't want my higher self or guides being neutral about me. I want them thinking loving thoughts, because there are only two thought systems. There is a thought system of fear and there is a thought system of love. If you are somewhere in the middle and there is a conflict going on, you're either going to be thinking about that conflict in a fearful way or a loving way. You're either going to get involved, you're going to send love or something. You're going to do one of two things. I totally agree with Marianne Williamson. So therefore, to me, the beginner meditation practice, the beginner manifestation practice, they're very much the same. In beginner meditation practice, we're taught things like mindfulness, are we not? How to allow thoughts to arise without attaching, and then just follow it. Just follow with the train of thought and letting it go again, without attaching much to it. That's like the mindfulness approach. And that is brilliant, because the beginner meditation mind can be weak. You have to build those mental and emotional muscles, correct? You have that mind drift, and then you meditate for 20 minutes, you realize, I only meditated for 10 seconds. The rest of the time I was thinking about, I need to wash my clothes and this and that. So you have stray thoughts and you get stuck in those sometimes. So I understand that beginner mindset. When a thought comes, don't attach to it, just observe it and let it go. Next one, if another one comes, observe it, let it go. And then eventually, at some point, if you're using mantras and stuff, you can just, nice, clear mind. But the more advanced you become, whether it's meditation, manifestation, whatever it is, the more advanced you become, forgiveness work becomes a part of that advanced practice. If I'm sitting in meditation and I'm getting quite clear, and then suddenly this thought comes in, maybe a mean thought about a friend, it just came out of the blue. I wasn't actively thinking about that, but that's fear. We don't actually think, I'm going to think a fearful thought. You know what? I'm thinking such a fearful thought right now. Sometimes we think, we're going to have permission from a friend before we can do any healing work. So, it's like, I'm just imagining before I have this fearful thought of a friend, I'm picking up the mobile phone and thinking, do you mind, Sam, if I have a mean thought about you? I'm just trying to get your permission before I have it. Is that okay? Okay, great. I'm going to go now. I'm going to think mean thoughts about you. It's like, we don't get permission from our friends to think mean things of them or evil things of them before we do it. So it's the same with love. I don't seek out their permission before I send them my love. I don't imagine the universe in crisis thinking, oh my God, that damn Todd, sending out love, just spiraling it out there without getting permission from people. How dare he? I let my love go in it. So if I have this thought of a friend come up and it's a mean thought, I'm thinking, okay, that thought's come to me. The universe is asking me in this moment to take responsibility for this thought. It's asking me right now that if I don't do it right now, if I just observe it, I'm just neutral about it, I've just attacked myself and my friend. I have a responsibility right now, because this is 100% responsibility. When those thoughts, when people come into your life, whatever it is, emerge, and the thing that is missing is unconditional love, this is when we go into forgiveness work. This is when we go into using and flexing those spiritual muscles. When we are unconditionally loving, like I've already said, it does not mean I am a doormat. if you start to treat me like a doormat, you are going to get my fierce love. But I will love you. But I will not be your doormat. So I can say no. I can say no in many nice, kind ways. But when I'm in that meditation, if that unkind thought comes, I want to recalibrate it right then and there. Because I know that if I don't recalibrate that thought, and I've attacked myself, I've attacked the other person, I'm creating a block. And that block's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, because if I keep going throughout the day and I don't address that one thing, and then it leads to the next thing and the next thing, by the end of the day I'm like a bear with a sore head, or a bulldog, as they say, with a wasp in its mouth.
How?
Ow! Indeed. But how many people do you see like bulldogs with wasps in their mouth showing up, to your workplace? You're like, cup of tea? Learn their love languages, yes, indeed. So for me, it is that constant recalibration. And even if I have to do it 20 times in a day, I will do it 20 times in a day. There are some days where I fall way short of this. And then I have lovely people like my wife to remind me that I have a responsibility in life. She'll remind me in kind ways. Or the trickster aspect of life, the trickster aspect of synchronicity. That kind of stuff. I love that, experiencing those things on synchronicity walks. People are like, but why did that just happen? And it's like, we forgot to laugh. We were taking ourselves too serious. We were trying to control the flow. We're literally just overly controlling, instead of trusting that we could get in that flow and remain there. That we could get to an elevated state of spirituality and remain there. The fear mind came in and brought doubts. And then we fell off that spiritual reality, that level of spiritual reality. It is for us to remove the blocks that stop everyday manifestation. It is for us to remove the blocks to everyday miracles. It is for us to remove the blocks to everyday synchronicity. It is us to do the forgiveness work, the self-forgiveness work, the forgiveness for others. We are not here just to love and be loved. We are here to forgive and be forgiven. There is a genuine process to all of that stuff. Like the forgiveness work we talked about, there's stages to it. Like grief, there's stages to it. These are, to me, not just basics. They're things that you probably know and that you've probably learned, but we have our days where we fall short. And it's on those days that we need to be kind and forgiving to ourselves too. You can create prayers on the go. I do it all the time. I create prayers for myself, like if I'm suddenly in a muddle, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, breathe. As I'm breathing, I might say something like, Dear Universe, please heal my thinking and restore my right mind. I might repeat that for the 2 minutes that I'm doing the breath work. Dear Universe, please heal my thinking and restore my right mind. I'm recalibrating.
Dear Universe? What do you say?
I say, Dear Universe, please heal my thinking and restore my right mind. I love one of the old New Thought leaders. I can't remember his name, but this was one of his favorite affirmations, and it covers everything. I love it. This used to be my mantra for years. I don't even know why I stopped. I am whole. So I'm breathing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathing. I am whole. Perfect. Strong. Powerful. Happy. Harmonious. Abundant. And I just keep repeating that. I am whole. Perfect. Strong. Powerful. Happy. Harmonious. And abundant. And I just keep repeating it as I'm breathing, as I'm getting my prefrontal lobe back online, my higher reasoning centers are coming back online, I'm starting to glow again. That's the master key system, that's right. What's his name? So I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, happy, and I think it finishes off and harmonious. But I've added abundant or something I've added to it. I don't know which one.
What was the last name, Charles?
And what was
Abundant H.
and the Dear Universe.
I'm the one before that. It's like, Dear Universe, please heal my thinking and restore my right mind, because I'm thinking unloving, unkind thoughts. I need to heal that.
Can I say something about that? Because I felt bad about doing that. But I've been in my she's not like, and I felt bad, but why have I thought that? There's no reason. Do you know what I mean?
Because we all have those parts that are still needing to be healed. I've got my inner jerk, you know. I remember once I was actually going on a train to give a talk in London on love. All right, I'm on this train and I'm heading into London from where I used to live, and I'm just there meditating, getting myself centered for the talk. And I'm like whipping up a love storm, and like all about the love, you know, and I'm doing these mantras for love, and it was on a day where there was football going on in the city, and we stopped by the home of football on this train. We stopped at Wembley Park Station. Football game must have just finished. All these football fans pile onto my carriage, and they're like chanting to each other. One, you know, set of followers to the other team followers, and they're all mean, nasty things, and I'm all in the state of gooey love, and then suddenly it's just like in my head, I'm looking around like, fuck off, all of you. I didn't say it out loud, but like, fuck off. Who the hell do you think you are interrupting my meditation of love? Thank you, Ascended Masters. Your daughter, in that moment, was an Ascended Master reminding you that you got an inner bitch. Right? Okay? You're welcome. Because my inner bastard comes out now and again, and I look around me on the train, and now where I saw football fans who were, you know, whatever, I now see Ascended Masters. I thank God, thank God, thank God, thank God. All right? Let me give you one more thing, and then we're going to wrap this up. It's called the attraction signal. You might have heard this, and I love sharing this on. So the attraction signal is this. For 24 hours, go 24 hours without complaining. Without one single complaint. All right? Every time you catch yourself in that energy of, you're like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe. Now I enter the loving energy field of my higher self. Now I enter the loving energy field of my higher self. Now I enter the loving energy field of my higher self. 2 minutes of that. Okay. And then whatever that situation was, you were about to blame somebody, 100% responsibility. What's that person's love language? What's the human need here? What is it that this situation is missing? Bam, you go right into it. You give. All right? The moment you come out of that about to blame, you give. You give to charity if you have to. You give to a homeless man. You give by holding somebody's door open. But whatever you were about to do, shame, blame, criticize, be full of contempt, be superior, spiritually superior. There's nothing spiritually superior about it. In the moment where you are monitoring other people's spiritual growth, you are actually not being spiritual. There is nothing spiritual about monitoring other people's spiritual growth. Unless you're the teacher and you gave me permission and you paid me, then I can monitor your growth. So the attraction signal, go 24 hours without complaining. And I'm going to leave you with this one last thing. Give up complaining for 1 whole month. Not one single complaint for 1 month. For 1 month, no complaints. No complaining.
You have to see if you can get through the 24
That's what I was thinking.
All right, fine, maybe I raised the bar instantly, but fine, go that one day. Start to strengthen those muscles. Start to flex those muscles, yeah? See how you get on. Even tomorrow, start right now. Okay, start right now.
It's really easy to do it around.
No, it is not. No, it is not. Oh, you found it totally easy so far here, yeah? You haven't had a single complaint. Is this what you're telling me? Emma's got evidence. Every morning she's like, you got any problems, any concerns, You got evidence. We got a record on you. We're keeping your permanent record on Emma's phone. No, it's like an inside thing. Only Americans will understand because we grew up in a school system where they're always telling us, that's going on your permanent record. It's like, and then you get to be an adult and you're like, there was never any permanent record. Anyhow, start out, yes, 1 day at a time. Not complaining. Not a single complaint. Every time you've made the complaint, you step back, you recalibrate in the ways that we're talking about. All right? You down with this? Huh?
When was your first successful month?
Haven't came to it yet. I haven't had my first successful month yet. I have had plenty of successful days.
You're the most honest teacher ever. Ever.
Before you get to your crescendo, because I want to let you have it, can I share my affirmation?
Sure.
A little one?
Yeah, let's have a girl. Let's have
This
a girl out
this is a Louise Hay one, right? But
Oh,
it's the
yeah.
one I've used for years.
Okay.
So it's deep at the core of my being. There's an infinite well of love. I now allow this love to come to the surface. It fills my body, my mind, my consciousness, my very being. It radiates out from me in all directions and returns to me multiplied.
I didn't think
Can you two do that now?
I'll send
It's
it to
got
you.
recorded. She can send it by email to all of you if you
It's in
like.
all the Louise Hay books you can hear your life. It's in the back. It's the one that's. But literally, I always. There's plenty to use, to spare, and to share. All is well in our world.
Okay. Now, to send you off, like Sky said with the crescendo,
yeah.
I'm just going to give you my personal manifestation practice in 3 steps. 3 simple steps. Step 1. Step 1, vision. I get clear about what I desire to manifest. I get super clear. Plenty of ideas out there that say, don't attach too much to the outcome. Look, I'm just getting clear, okay? Butt out. Let me get clear about what it is I desire to manifest, all right? So, relax. You got that?
Yes.
2, purpose. I define how this manifestation will serve me and other people. So I get clear with my vision. I get clear with my purpose. What is the purpose for this manifestation in my life? I learned this from the Baha'is. Anybody here know the Baha'is? The Baha'i faith?
Yes.
Yeah?
That's,
They were introduced to me around the time I started having the out-of-body experiences. And there was some Baha'is in our local neighborhood. They lived in the big houses up the hill. And they were all about abundance. They have this core idea of unity. And I love this stuff. We got invited to go to one of their spiritual development courses, which was like 2 weeks long. It was in one of their houses, big old house, big lounge as big as this. This many people would arrive, half of them Baha'is, half of them just, every other day people. And this one guy named Vafa, and he became my spiritual mentor for the next kind of 2 years. And I sat his relationship development course, his spiritual development course, like back to back, and then did them again. And they were always free. And people would come, just like when they came to my first event, they're like, what's your agenda, mate? You're providing all this food in this swank house and all these great ideas. What's your agenda? And you know what? Never once.
I love your angry British voice. Accent.
Never once did the Baha'is try to sell me their religion. Never once. They were just giving. They were literally walking their talk. I loved them for that. Never once did they sell me their religion. We'd go to their house, they'd teach us stuff, and then we'd come away. And for those months and those weeks and those months, I was on it. I was really in their vortex. That was, profoundly special. And to me, they taught me things like, Vafa in particular modeled something to me about that purpose. He was just like, when I buy a car, I think about my community. How can that car serve my community? And I just thought, that's fucking lovely. So he goes, I have this big old sedan where I can fit many people. I can take people places, people to meetings. I can ferry cargo if need be. I think about my community. And I thought, that is just beautiful. What a way to manifest. Because he's manifesting abundance. Everything that he manifests in his life is spiritual wealth for everyone. Because spiritual wealth is good, an abundance of all good things. It isn't just financial. Yeah, it took finances to buy that car, but he bought that car in love as the bottom line. The next car I buy, I'm buying it with love as my bottom line.
It's a truck.
I love trucks.
For me, our next vehicle will be a truck, yeah.
Pickup.
Pickup, yeah. I could have a dog, an extended cab, and, a couple homeless people living in a tent, and hell, they'll be in our house. Okay, so I really get clear with the purpose. I define how this manifestation is going to serve me and others. Third step, the ritual. With a clear vision and a defined purpose, I channel them into a daily manifestation meditation practice, after which I take inspired action. So let me just run you through what I do. This is going to be like super fast. So I do some breathing work because I know I might be in my fear mind when I start this. Sometimes I might be. So I want to do some clearing work. So I'm doing some breath work. I'm doing some forgiveness work. I'm doing the Ho'oponopono. I'm getting deeper and deeper. I'm saying things like after I do the Ho'oponopono and some forgiveness work, now I'm like on the audio tracks, I'm like bringing light into my energy field. I'm building my energy body. I'm saying things like now I raise my internal vibration. Now, with the assistance of my guides, I'm raising my internal vibrational state to their vibrational frequency. And then after a couple minutes of that, I'm now saying things like now my guides assisting with raising my internal vibrational frequency to that of my higher self. And I'm just, woo! And I have some beautiful music playing on. It's just like angelic and all this stuff. And I'm just raising it up and up and up. And usually it takes me about 10 minutes. And then I get into this formless state where it's just, I imagine and I visualize this unified energy field of light. That's my higher self. I'm imagining this unified energy field of light with all this conscious awareness of all these lifetimes, all these guides, all of this mothership. And that unified energy field of light. Before I went into that meditation, I had a manifestation in mind. So what I'll do is this. Before I start that stuff, I got really clear about what I wanted, yeah? And for you, I might ask this. So think about something that you'd like to manifest in your life soon. Think about it right now. Quickly. Just think about something. You can always change your mind, but think about something. Now think about, if that thing was to manifest, that person, place, or thing was to manifest into your life within a week, how would it make you feel? How would it make you feel?
A miracle.
A miracle?
Just the relief.
Relief?
Oh,
Amazing?
oh,
Awe?
oh.
Awe? However it would make you feel, I want you to make that your core feeling, your core manifestation feeling. So I get clear with what I want, and I now have a core feeling to go with it. So I'm getting into this deep meditative state. I'm doing what I've learned through astral projection. I've learned that there are two main things. It's focused intention, and it's a high energy state. Those two things are what I'm seeking now, okay? I'm having this focused intention, and I'm getting into this deep energetic state through intentional. Everything I'm thinking, everything I'm visualizing, everything I'm feeling is getting me into this vortex of this unified energy field of my higher self. When I'm there, it's just this white light. It's formless, but I have that seed of my manifestation, the truck maybe, and I plant that. But for me, it's really easy for you to grasp. It's things like, I'll use an example of my workshop, like this 9-day event. I'll go into that state. If there's any doubt, let's say there's like a month to go and it's still half full. I'll go into a meditation. I'll do this manifestation meditation. My seed is to fill the workshop. So I go in there, plant the seed now that I'm beyond the fear mind. I'm way in here in the unified energy field of my higher self. I plant the seed in this beautiful white light, the core of who I am, love, abundance. And now I just start to allow myself to feel that core feeling, manifestation feeling. How do I feel when I fill a workshop? I'll tell you how I feel. I feel how I feel right now, sitting amongst you all right now. I feel happy. I feel joy. So I start this when I get into that light and I plant that seed, the next thing I do is this. I start to listen. I don't start to instantly manifest, seeing the floorboards and having form fill around me and seats, and I, fill the space with people. The first thing I'm listening for is your laughter. I'm deep there in the core of this, and I'm listening for your laughter. And then I hear you all laughing. How many times have you laughed tonight? I got it all on evidence. You laughed a lot. Laughed at my jokes, lots of them. You were laughing. We're talking. I hear you sharing with each other, doing little energy healing swaps and whatever else.
Fire grace.
Yeah. And I'm hearing all this stuff, and then suddenly I start letting form come in. I start seeing the rug. I start seeing the floorboards or the beams, the sofas, the chairs, forms, people sitting down. And I start to connect with all of your higher selves in this moment. And I'm saying to your higher selves, if you have the scout ships, if you have these parts of you that are in time, space-time, if you have parts of you that are there, and they're ready, I'm ready to hold the space, and I will hold that space with love. I will look after them. I will look at them with mercy and kindness and forgiveness. I will be vulnerable. I will show them my vulnerability. I will show them I'm not perfect, that I'm making progress. I will make them feel part of my earth family. This is what I was doing with all of you. I was communicating to your higher self. Some of you are like, I don't know why I came here. It was your guides. This is beyond me. I'm just connecting to your own desires. I'm connecting to your own will. But, we're working together. We're creating this together. And then all of this has happened. And then I build this rocket. I've got like this large firework, huge firework, almost rocket. And I've got 7 stages to this rocket. The first stage is certainty. And I make a promise to your higher self. That first stage of the rocket, certainty, I will give them certainty. Certainty that they will have my love. Certainty that they will not get bullied. Certainty that I will look after them. Certainty that when they're having a breakdown, certainty that they need a shoulder to cry on, I'll give it. But I will hold that space with love. Then the next stage of the rocket, uncertainty. I will give them variety. I will give them a couple spices of life. I will remind them of that type of surprise energy. We go into significance. I will make them feel special. I will make them feel valued. I will make them feel worthy. I go up to growth. That's a given. We're going to grow together. I'm going to give you lots of tools. I get up to the next stage, contribution. Who made that lovely contribution today in the circle? Me, thank you very much. There are so many teachers here. Even people who don't know that they're ready to teach. You are ready. Sometimes, people might come here even maybe a little bit more advanced than me in certain ways, but there might be something that they have to learn from me that their guide has sent them here for. Could be humility. Could be to remind them that their teachers aren't where they're at, and that they need to look around that room with kindness, with patience, and give those students their full attention. Not looking at their phones, not doing other stuff, giving their students their full attention. I then get up to the love and the connection stages of that rocket. I'm reaching out to you through your higher self. I get down there to where the wick, whatever you want to call it, the firing pin, whatever it is, and I'm holding this candle of living light. And I walk up to that fuse. That's what it is, the fuse. I walk up to the fuse with all of your higher selves with a hand on that stick of living light. And I light that fuse. We light that fuse and it just goes, whoosh, up it goes, right over the soul plane. And it goes bang, right over the soul plane. And I see all of that sparkling energy now, that big firework, because that's what it is. It's a big manifestation firework. It goes bang, all over the soul plane. All the souls are like, firework, love, joy. And it's all trickling down. And I'm just in that meditation still. I'm just imagining things like all those higher selves, like, I went in on this. I've got souls down there on the earth plane that could use a bit of this. Look at this rocket, all these stages, all this stuff Todd's filled it with. Yep, I'm in on that. Sending out more scout ships, send out some guides, get the synchronicities going, activate synchronicity, yeah. And then that stuff sparkling down into the higher planes where Buddha hangs out and Jesus hangs out and those kind of, they're like, oh wow, yes, I'm going to give some love towards that. Give it the love, pass it on. Todd's going for it. He's going to fill this workshop. It's coming down into the astral planes, the high astral, the medium astral planes. Everybody's like, oh my God, look at Todd's YouTube videos. Oh, I really like that. I got a loved one in physical reality. Synchronicity. I'm going to go in and check in on them, give them a nudge. Watch that video. It's coming down to the lower planes, where there might be a bit of darkness. And at this point, everybody else is in on it. They're all like, all those sparkles are coming in and touching people and lifting their moods, lifting their energy, lifting away the darkness. just giving at this point. We're just giving. The whole of the universe is just giving in that level. And it comes down to the earth, and it's just like this sparkles all over the world. And those sparkles are just going everywhere, all over the world. I come out of that meditation, I tell you, I am as high as a kite.
That's my baby.
When I go into meditation, my manifestation meditation, that's the kind of shit I'm doing.
It's not shit. It's awesome.
And look, I had a waiting list for this event in the end. Right up to the end, I had a waiting list. I had some woman, she was desperate. She's like, I'll sleep in my car. I was like, I'm not having people sleep in their cars. Come back to the next event. And that's one of the things, when I'm deep in that manifestation, I see the floorboards after I've heard your laughter and all this stuff, and the whole place is formed in my mind. I usually see my guides with clipboards at the door, and there's like a mile long people waiting. You can come to the next event. This one's full. You can come to the next one, okay? Total abundance. That's my meditation. That's my manifestation. I've been meaning for almost 2 years now to whip that up into the most beautiful script, put some music to it, put it up on YouTube. Eventually I will, but that's what I do. Doesn't matter what the manifestation is, that's what I do. I get into that high energy state with my mind focused, with my vision, my purpose is clear. I'm now doing the ritual. Every day I will do the ritual, which is that meditation.
Can I ask you a question? So you know, so I was thinking of like a business idea. So would you know that you structured the whole day here? Would you put all that in your manifestation?
I don't need to put the whole... No. This is what I do. I almost finished on the end. I come out of the meditation, and now I I allow inspired action. I allow inspired action at that point. That's literally the last thing it says here. It says, when I finish that meditation practice, after which I take inspired actions. All right? I don't just take any old fearful action. I take inspired action. But I'm in a state to hear, sense, feel my guidance. It will be inspired. Okay? That's it. That's what I do. Okay? That's the end of the talk. It's been a little bit longer than usual.